It took 5 generations for the Chinese company 8849 to manage to build a smartphone with the best and most powerful integrated laser projector, with a resolution never before seen in the world of smartphones. The word beast doesn't even come close to describing this 8849 Tank 5. When I was testing its brutal laser projector while submerging it in icy water to also check its military-grade resistance and its dual submersible fan, I remembered the first time I tested a tank on this channel. A lot of time has passed, but the feelings are still the same. When it comes to innovating and making different smartphones, no one dares more than 8849 for power, for battery, for durability, for integrated tools like the rangefinder they've also added, although all of this obviously comes at a price. It's probably its most negative point, and that's its size and weight. In this video, I'll tell you the best and worst things. I'll also put it through tough tests, although I'll focus mainly on its laser projector, which is a milestone in the mobile phone industry. But you've already seen the unboxing of this Tank 5, and now you're looking at its design. Notice that something has changed here. There's no longer a separate camera module. The metal covers all 3 lenses, as well as the infrared sensors, and the flashlight has also been reduced. Even so, it still shines at 1,200 nits, as you'll see later. It's extremely thick, over 33 millimeters, and watch out for the weight. It's 715 grams. That's probably its biggest downside, but it's understandable. If you want to fit everything this monster has inside, well, it has to be very heavy. Even so, I have to say that compared to the previous tank, the Tank X, they've slightly reduced the weight. As for the USB Type-C 3.1 ports and audio jack, thanks for still including it, a microphone, and as you can see, there's rubber on the bottom and metal on the side. The unlock and lock button with fingerprint sensor is a bit loose, and I think it's positioned too low. This is mainly to make room for the vents of the dual fan that this Tank 5 has. But up top is this smartphone's standout feature, something that no one had dared to do until now. By the way, check out that sensor, which is the rangefinder, and look at this huge card holder. You can add 2 SIM cards. It also includes eSIM, all 5G, and a micro SD of up to 2 terabytes. That red washer is what confirms its military-grade IP69 protection against water and dust. And here is the best built-in laser projector in the world, with the highest resolution ever seen. It's absolutely crazy, as you'll see in the projector test. On the other side, it has 2 separate volume buttons. They also have a kind of micro texture and don't wobble as much as the lock and unlock button. There are also 2 customizable buttons flush with the frame, one of them in a striking red, and look at how your hand would fit. Without a doubt, you need to have very large hands to be able to use this smartphone comfortably. But let's say that's the price to pay, as I was saying, for having what no one else has, inside the most beastly smartphone that's ever been featured on this channel. And now let's move on to my favorite section, which is putting this Tank 5 through tough tests. As you can see, it's submerged in water with the projector turned on. And even though the fans are running, as you can see in these microscopic shots, nothing happens to it, whether it's water, dirt, or any kind of element or drops. It's also nice that it comes with a pre-installed plastic screen protector. This smartphone can withstand absolutely anything. It doesn't matter if the water is ice cold. And later, you'll also see how well the screen works even when it's wet. But speaking of screens, this has also changed for the better compared to the previous generation. AMOLED screen, this time 6.73 inches, 3K resolution, 120 Hz refresh rate, and a maximum peak brightness of 3000 nits. Therefore, you'll be able to see it perfectly well in any kind of lighting. Also, something I like is that even though it's AMOLED, they've added a 1200H PWM. This is always good and healthy for your eyes. The screen is extremely customizable, as you can see. By the way, I recommend setting it to 120 Hz by default. And let's go back to what I mentioned earlier. Notice that even though it's underwater, the screen doesn't go crazy. Here I tested the iPhone 17 Pro Max twice, 2 different models, to make sure that the screen of that smartphone, which I should mention costs much more than this tank, would go crazy with just a little water. On the other hand, the touch input on this tank, as you've already seen, works perfectly even when it's wet. But as you can see, when it comes to watching multimedia, for example, in this YouTube test video, you can tell it's a big leap towards AMOLED finally for the tank. The viewing angles aren't that great, mainly because of the plastic protective film it has, but you can always remove it. To sum it all up, it's the rugged smartphone with the best screen I've tested so far. Even so, obviously, whoever buys this $8,849 Tank 5 isn't doing it mainly for the screen, but for the incredible and unstable, for the incredible impossible until recently, integrated laser projector it has. You can use it in any condition, whether it's cold, hot, or humid. It doesn't matter. Like I mentioned before, it can withstand absolutely anything. And it's so powerful that even during the day, look, you can see it quite well. Since this isn't the recommended environment to use this projector. But anyway, as you can see, once we turn it on, it says you shouldn't point it directly at your eyes. This is directly dangerous, given its power. Notice how the screen shrinks to the size that will be projected. And also something I like is that if you lock the screen, the content you're watching keeps being projected anyway. This helps save battery. And you can already see the features, all the modes it has. The night mode, which keeps it fixed, all the features. Also, the brightness is up to 220 lumens. This is the same as the previous generation. What changes here is the density, since now we've gone from Full HD to 2K, the highest resolution in the history of integrated laser projectors. Notice that the rangefinder also helps to focus automatically and correctly position the projector. Although, for example, you can also use the rangefinder as a tool. For example, for those who want a reliable tool for carpentry or masonry, etc. It can be a good option. But let's move on to the most powerful projector in the history of smartphones, which is found in this 8849 Tank 5. In this bedroom, there is a bed that is 2 meters by 1.60 meters. It's going to serve as a reference to show how huge the screen is. It can be over 120 inches. And you can see how it reconfigures itself as I move it around. The light changes a bit, the position changes a bit. All of this happens automatically, although you can also do it manually. It looks really good, especially considering how hard it is to record a laser projector with a regular camera. Even so, I think it looks pretty good, and it's quite clear that it's an impressive projector, especially considering we're testing it from a smartphone. And what is, in my opinion, the most negative point of this projector? Well, it's the sound of the fans. Here, you'll hear them better. So, as I was saying, projection in 2K resolution, the highest in the industry. DLP technology, 220 lumens. Also, the laser, which helps to position it, reaches up to 4 meters in distance. With a minimum focus of 50 centimeters, it has keystone correction. And you can project movies continuously for 6 hours, 5 or 6 hours depending on the modes, without having to charge the battery. If you don't want to buy a stand, for example, for your bedroom, what I recommend is what I did. Just use some kind of support, for example, a book or a pillow, so that it stays in place and you can project the movie you want to watch. For example, before going to sleep, you can even project it directly onto the ceiling. But without a doubt, it's impressive that from something so small, in quotes, you can get such incredible quality. I assure you there are dedicated projectors with lower resolution that look worse. With this 8849 Tank 5, something else you can do, for example, is connect via Bluetooth. Bluetooth 5.4, by the way. A controller, a joystick, and play your favorite games. Projected on the wall of your room with a size of 120 inches, and I'm using this game so you can hear how the speaker sounds. As for my personal opinion about the speaker you heard earlier, I think it's very powerful. Still, I would have liked it to have 2 speakers, since that would have achieved a better stereo effect. Well, maybe for the Tank 6, who knows? Anyway, let's talk about the hardware and software of this beast with a legendary projector. Fingerprint sensor. In my opinion, it's too low. It's also not the fastest I've tried. However, I like that they've added double tap to wake and double tap to lock. It's very fast. It feels really good. Those 120 Hz you can tell. The vibration motor is powerful. And something else I like is its processor. It's a MediaTek Dimensity 9400E, quite efficient, and at the same time, powerful. 4 nanometers, 16 GB of RAM. LPDDR5X, and 512 GB of internal storage. UFS 4.0. This has also been improved compared to the previous version. And it also comes with stock Android 16 for running everyday apps like Instagram. This feels super fast. It feels really good. There's no lag at all. And you also have to appreciate that 3K resolution AMOLED screen. By the way, you can cast anything, including Instagram or any app. But in more demanding apps like Google Earth, notice how everything renders really fast. There's no lag at all either. By the way, the GPS, the data, Wi-Fi, everything has worked really well for me. Wi-Fi 7, by the way. And when it comes to gaming, as you've seen before, you won't have any problems either. Even though it's not the fastest processor in the industry, I think this MediaTek has a good balance between efficiency and power. By the way, you already know the typical tools of all the 8849 tanks. You have them. By the way, all the videos on this channel, it has several flashlights, some very powerful, up to 1,200 lumens, and also the ability to drain, using infrasound to expel both water and dust. You can see it in these microscopic shots. And as for the battery, well, just so you get an idea, this Tank 5 is like having more than 3 iPhone 17 Pro Max batteries inside, like the one you're seeing on the screen. And obviously, you're really going to notice that, especially when you put it in your pocket. We're talking about a huge 17,600 milliamp hour battery with 120 watt fast charging, with the charger included in the box. Thanks for still doing this, since there are very few left who do. However, it doesn't have wireless charging or reverse wireless charging, but it does include some features. For example, you can limit the charge to 80% or 70%. Also, something I like is that you can turn on the fan to cool down the charging. This will improve the battery health even more. As for its duration, if you're not going to use the projector, it can last you about a week depending on how you use it. Because at the end of the day, where this smartphone will consume the most is when using the projector, as I mentioned earlier. You can watch movies for up to 5 or 6 hours, depending on the mode you choose, continuously. And now let's move on to a section that I didn't like as much, and that's the cameras. 350 megapixel cameras, main camera, 2x telephoto with up to 20x digital zoom and a night vision camera, and then a 32 megapixel one. That would be the selfie camera. The camera interface is very simple. It has a pro mode with an exposure time of only 0.3 seconds. And at the end of the day, it's a camera system. And above all, the software is pretty basic, as you'll see in the photo tests. And I suppose that whoever buys an 8,849 Tank 5 isn't really doing it for the cameras, but rather for its projector, or even for the rangefinder, or the battery, or its large AMOLED screen, or even for its durability. That's something that needs improvement, hopefully in future versions. Let's see, especially an improvement in the software, since the hardware isn't all that bad. Even so, with good lighting, you can already see that some photos are acceptable. Now let's move on to the video test.
Video recording with the 5th generation of the tank. Well, this is how its stabilization would look and how its microphones would sound at full HD resolution at 30 frames per second. And this is its maximum resolution, that is
4K at
30 frames per second.
And take a look at this infrared camera. Right now there's no light at all, absolutely none. And look, because I could even take this book thanks to its camera, its night vision sensor, and start reading in complete darkness. And now, let's talk about the price of this ultra-resistant beast, the 8,849 Tank 5. How much does it cost? Well, as you can see, 882.53 euros. Although for the first buyers, you'll get a €100 discount or $100 discount depending on where you live. I'll leave the purchase link below in the video description. Without a doubt, and to sum up, I love what Tank does, and it's something that almost no other company does anymore. It's about innovating, doing something different, things that others wouldn't even dare to do. It's true that it comes at a price. Obviously, with that weight and size, it's not for every budget, nor for every hand. Anyone who buys a Tank already knows what they want. Something big, tough, with a better screen, and no battery worries. And above all, with a stratospheric projector, a laser projector never seen before integrated into a smartphone. If this is what you're looking for, nobody does it better than $8,849. And now, if you have any questions or anything, just leave them for me down below in the comments. Subscribe and leave me a like so I can keep riding in these amazing places and testing the world's most unique and innovative smartphones here on your channel, Testa Do. And now I'll see you in the next video. Take care and see you soon.